I'm going to call this meeting back to order in an open session. And so once again, I'd like to call roll, and so I will start on my right-hand side.
Mary Amaro, industry member. Holly Cordenez, industry member.
Lisa Tong, public member.
Rich Hedges, public member.
Joseph Federico, industry member.
Coco Lachine, public member.
And on the phone?
Bobby Jean Anderson, public member.
Hi, Bobby.
Hello, Bobby.
Hi, hello.
So, okay, well, we've got a quorum, and we're going to start this meeting. So first thing is my opening remarks. How's everyone doing out there today?
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. Could I just have her confirm the location is the same as the teleconference one?
Oh, sure. Bobby Jean, can you please confirm your location for us?
Yes, 22770 Mountain View Road, Marina Valley, California.
Awesome.
Thank
you
you.
very much. All right. So now that that's been established, looks like we got some people out there in the audience. It's not as full as we normally have it, but hey, that's good to hear. Yeah, I'm gonna just move right along. Let's just go into general public comment, and remember these are items that are not currently on our agenda, and just remember the board may not discuss or take any action items raised on this, but it is just general public comment. So call for public comment.
Good morning, board members. Fred Jones, Professional Beauty Federation, California. So we have a WOW date for 2017. We had to push it back to May 1st. So Monday, May 1st will be our 17th annual Welcome to Our World event. For those of you who are new on the board, we have an event for legislators, staff, administrators, state board. It's actually open to the public, but that's who we invite to come and have complimentary beauty services. And while they are our captive audience, we express to them our passion for this industry, and if there are issues before the legislature, we talk to them about those issues. And it has been a very successful event. Most years, members of your board attend, staff attend, so just put down May 1st, 3 to 6 p.m. We usually have a large tent right on the steps of the Capitol. However, there's major construction going on this year. So there is a chance we may be moving about a block and a half away, right across the street from the cathedral, Catholic Cathedral. So more about the venue location later, but the date is May 1st. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing as there is none, I'm going to move over to our executive officer's report and I'll give the floor over to Christy Underwood.
Good morning. So we will start with our statistics that are in your packet. And if we could go through them, we do have some new items that we've added for this meeting. So it starts with our applications received, which is not new. That's our general statistics that we provide, showing our first quarter of this fiscal year. And then next is our licenses issued. And then we get into our new statistics. So we've listed applications received. We talked about this at the last board meeting, and we kind of wanted to see if there's a trend in the applications received over the last 5 years. Because we went on to Breeze, for 14, 15, 15, 16, we're able to break this data down by license type because of Breeze. We weren't able to do that before. So at the very bottom of that page is our applications received for the last 5 years. So you can see that 15, 16 is a little bit lower. The next page shows the licenses issued.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I wish I'd been here a little more timely. I would ask it before the meeting. So I'm looking at applications for testing on the first page of all of the numbers. And it looks to me like in most license cases, about 50% is the number of re-examined. They're pretty close. Is that any indication of anything? Because we're not having that percentage fail.
So
I'm looking at something that says re-exam.
So 537 barbers.
Right.
Is that okay? So no, I think our re-exams are always usually around that high. And it, they have to pass both parts, so that's not separated by which re-exam they're taking.
Okay.
So moving on is to the licenses issued for the last 5 years. So you can see here also that this, in fiscal year 15-16, the cosmetology is down. Manicuring's up a little, and esthetician is a little bit down, but not by much.
So it looks like that applications for apprentices and also the licenses are up, which I look as a really good thing, because that's the way our working class community can actually get an education and get a skill. I'm so pro apprenticeship programs.
It also just seems there's a big, following, it seems like with the industry, there's been a big uptick in barbers over the last 5 years.
And could that uptake probably would increase in barbers with the ability to cross over at a much easier rate?
I think the barber industry is just growing on its own. I mean, we see it more at shows. So the next chart is something that we talked about with reciprocity, with people sort of coming into California and going out of California. So what we did was we put together total reciprocity applications approved and licensed. And we did that by state.
Thank you.
The next page shows total certifications processed. We can't guarantee that these people got licensed in another state, but what it is it shows you how many certification letters we sent to those states.
So go back to the reciprocity applications. So that's the people coming into the state, right?
Correct.
So do we know, or can we focus on those that are leaving?
So if you turn the page.
Okay, that's what I thought, I'm just double checking.
And that she's saying that they may have not gotten reciprocity, but as a stipulation of reciprocity, you have to send a certification letter.
Right.
So this is basically how many certification letters we've sent.
Exactly.
And then, when did we really bring in reciprocity? I know it's when we switched over to MIC.
2008 or 7.
Right.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, I would guess 7 off the top of my head without having the number in front of me. It was something that the previous administration of the board had fought. Once we changed administrations, we agreed to do it.
Good.
Next is the examination results, which are our standard that you're used to seeing. We continue to watch the Spanish rates. They are still low. We did look at a particular month and found over half of the people taking the Spanish exam were from out of country. But I caution that just happened to be for one particular month. We're still going to look at that. When we pulled data to do our report on Spanish pass rates, we did not find that as a trend, but I did think it was interesting that in a very recent month, that the majority of the candidates are coming from out of country taking the test.
Well, please. I would go back to what I've said in the past, that an understanding of the grammar in your own language is very important, because grammar is a description of your language. And having a speaking ability and understanding how the language is constructed makes a lot of difference in taking a test.
On the next page is our DRC stats, which I think we can agree, our DRC members, that the stats look better than they've probably ever looked.
Yeah. It's amazing to just see the pending numbers so low.
Exactly.
I would caution though, we're getting a lot more appeals in Southern California than we are in the north. And we should have probably been in Southern California this month. If you understand what I'm getting at. The very person we changed it for. I don't see. So, translate that as being a little bit unhappy, then unfortunately this time I'm a little bit unhappy about that.
I have a question about the TRC numbers.
Mhm.
Would it be possible to get a comparison just for context in terms of the number we've received in the past maybe 3 to 5 years? Just to see if we're seeing an increase in DRC requests or?
Sure. We can do that for sure.
Is there a reason why there are so many more requests in Southern California? Is it the sheer number
Higher population.
of population?
The population even of salons is huge down there compared to up here.
Did we get an inspector for the San Francisco Bay Area? So
No.
one of the most populous areas, dense areas, we don't have an inspector because of the cost of living mainly.
We have been sending inspectors to San Francisco area. It's bigger than the city of San Francisco, but we have been getting our inspectors to travel to do that. Territory is been vacant for a very long time. But we also have more inspectors in the southern area to handle the higher workload as well.
But the traveling ones are just probably doing directives, right?
They're getting, one of the things we recently did was through Breeze, and our Carrie Harris, who's in our audience right now, our enforcement manager and Breeze guru, we were able to pull lists of establishments that have never been inspected or hadn't been inspected in a really long time. So we were able to provide that to our inspectors. So the inspectors have been able to see where they need to go when they don't have directives, because of course that's going to be their top priority. But now they're working from a list, and it's been really helpful. So people that haven't ever been inspected are getting inspected.
Can I ask a question through the president to Christine? Have you had any requests for inspectors to inspect salons in that area?
I'm sorry, have we had?
Any requests, like reporting or inspections of salons? Have you had? Yeah, anonymous.
Complaints?
Yes,
Have we had any complaints in San Francisco?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and we handle those just like we handle a complaint in any other territory.
Even the federal government does, I'm trying to think of the right term, adjust for the cost of living in areas when they place people. Have we considered asking DCA, and if necessary the legislature, to give us the authority to do rent stipends for people in these areas? It would actually save us money in the long run.
We have not asked that particular question. I do know that the department is looking at the pay scale for the inspector classification. It's obviously a huge issue. And what the inspectors make, they can't afford to live in San Francisco, which is one of the.
Afford to live anywhere.
Well, not really. I mean, it's very hard. So, but the department is working on that.
Yeah, I would suggest that we look into relocation money for people who move into that area. I mean, when you stop and think about the traveling, the amount of wear and tear on a vehicle, the cost for parking, the things like that, if we can get somebody located even around the suburban area of San Francisco with some rent adjustments. I mean, just unless you live in that area, you couldn't possibly understand. It took me 3.5 hours to go 20 miles recently. Just the ability to inspect more than 1 or 2 places in a day if you don't live in the area and have to commute in.
Okay, so moving on is our enforcement statistics. Any questions on those? Next, we have our budget.
I see a lot of blood in this budget. A lot of red ink. What's going on?
The red is mostly up depending on our line item, and it's the way the budget is structured, that's not every line item has the allocation, but the bottom line does.
I see.
It's a budget letter, and that is how we classify certain positions.
One more question?
Mhm.
Sure. In past years, I've seen demonstrated in the budget somewhere, even though it's not part of the line item, the amount of money the state owes us. And I didn't see that this year.
It's on the next page.
Okay.
So that's our fund condition, and there it does show our proposed general fund loan repayment,
And how much is it now?
11 million.
I see. Thank you.
And then the last item in this is our outreach update, which shows what we've participated in, and the last item that we have for this fiscal year is the ISSE show in Long Beach. If we are approved, we're still under the governor's executive order for limiting travel, but we did receive approval to go to this show. We're just waiting for the promoters of the show to tell us if they're going to allow us to attend.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. That's all I have.
All right. Any questions or concerns about any other stuff from the board? All right, we're gonna move along then to agenda item number 5, which is approval of board meeting minutes from April 11th, 2016. All right, has everybody had a chance to read over, make sure that they were attributed correctly? So I have a motion, and I'll second that motion. So I got a motion and a second, so open it up for public comment on the approval of these minutes.
Is the motion to approve all 3 minutes, or are we gonna do them separately?
I would amend my motion to approve all 3 of the months of meetings. That's April.
April 11th, July 7th, April 11th of this year, July 17th of this year, and July 18th of this year.
So I would get full approval of those dates. I've looked at the minutes and don't see anything that I would draw attention to.
One comment on the July 17th and July 18th minutes. Under staff members present, it might be more helpful to simply state Laura Friedman, legal counsel, as she was your legal counsel those 2 days.
I would accept that as a minute, minutes.
And then I'm not sure if it was clear if the second to the motion was also, maybe it's just me, was also intending to do all 3 as the,
I was actually just updating my second because you had made that amendment to it, so I'm going to second the new amended motion. So I have a motion and a second, public comment on the meeting minutes. All right, seeing as there is none, I am going to open up the vote on my right-hand side.
Mary Jo Amaro? Yes.
Polly Cardenas, yes.
Lisa Tong, yes.
Rich Evans, yes.
Joseph Federico, yes.
Yes.
On the phone?
Bobby Jean Anderson, yes.
All right,
Through the chair.
motion carries. Yes.
One of the things I always do, I try to watch at least 2 meetings that are videotaped before I come to this meeting to get a clear view of what everybody said. And that's really helpful as far as looking at the minutes too. So if people have the time to do it, I would say always check the videotape of the meetings that we've had previous to the meeting we're going to attend.
Good advice, especially to all board members. All right, so moving on to agenda item number 6, which is a review and approval of a board review and approval of proposed board-created education tutorial series for licensees, establishment owners, and unlicensed individuals and apprentices. So I'm going to again defer to Christy Underwood on this.
Thank you. So in your packet is a proposal that was prepared by Tammy Guest, here to my left. And what this will do is we are are looking, as you know, we're updating our health and safety curriculum for schools. And that's the health and safety curriculum for the professionals, not the actual curriculum that the schools put together. That's the additional. As we've been doing this, we've found that we have some abilities within our own office to educate people and to prepare some tutorial series online. So what has been done here is very forward-thinking idea that we are putting forward to the board today to create our own tutorial sessions. These are educational videos that would be available to anybody. So if you look at page 4 of this proposal, it kind of outlines the bullet points there outlining the ideas that we have of what each section would include. So this is something that once done, and it will take some time to do this, but we would like to start working on it. We think this could be really helpful to establishment owners that are not licensees. We have that a lot, and we have people that aren't really understanding what they have gotten themselves into sometimes. It could be for we often during discipline cases order remedial education. So it could be used for remedial education. It could be used for a licensee who has been revoked to show rehabilitation. So these are the different segments that we would have sections on. Laws and regulations of the board, professionalism in the salon, how to avoid the board's most commonly cited violations, maintaining healthy sanitation and disinfecting procedures, unlicensed activity in the establishment owner accountability, ensuring client protection, foot spa safety, manicuring and pedicuring safety, and the list goes on, ending with one of our favorites, which is the pre-apprentice orientation. And that's the 39-hour requirement that apprentices have to have prior to becoming licensed in the apprentice program. So it's all something that we would do. It would be web-based, would you say? Barber Cosmetology. We would have it available online. We would have it in different languages. The way it's going to be developed is through, do you want to say what is articulate storyline. So basically, we as board members have to take sexual harassment training and ethics training online. That's the type of system we're looking at for this. So it's,
Or it refuses you to leave this.
Right,
you have to
right,
be in front of
or-
your computer.
right, and so that's what we're looking at. We're working with DCA on that. We're hoping to meet with some vendors for that type of system in early 2017 to kind of get an idea of where this would go.
So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
This is something we've wanted for a long time. Thank you very much. Well, of course.
Yes.
So, but I do have a question around it, which one thing I don't see. As you explained the various classes we have to take, when you go through each section, there's questions regarding that section. And it's really an open book test.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a wonderful way to teach people the points you want them to take home. So I would say this would be ineffective unless we have a section like that at the end of each
Right.
particular part. Are we playing that?
Yeah, that's actually the direction.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the 15 different segments that you have, some people would be accessing them because of requirement,
Right.
some for their own, improvement. So I'm assuming that all these 15 segments are independent segments that they can pick and choose, and each one will have their corresponding certification if necessary.
That's exactly right, and if you'll notice on the pre-apprentice orientation, the pre-apprentice will take this module. Can you hear me now? But they will also be required to fulfill the 39 hours, so there will be other sections that they would have to take that would be part of that requirement that would be outlined in the orientation module.
So on the pre-apprentice orientation, my question is, would this be something that as someone beginning an apprenticeship takes, and then basically once they complete it, they can like, they're ready for, like, does this completely supplement them having to go to the school for the first 39-hour portion, or is this in addition to, like, them attending an apprenticeship program for the 39-hour portion of the program?
This would just fulfill the 39-hour requirement. And it should be noted that this, by agreeing to this tutorial series, we're not stopping the other sponsors from offering their training. It's
Of course.
just another option.
Yes.
So,
I understand, I just wanted to make sure I didn't when I was reading through it, I was making sure that, it was just like, it was like I couldn't tell if it was an addition, like an add-on to the 39, or it actually can satisfy the whole 39-hour program.
And also for remedial education, for instance, with the foot spa, you have to take remedial education, or we order it often in reinstatements. People find it very hard to find a school that will offer that program to them. So this would at least help with that, and we can ensure they're receiving the appropriate training on how to correct the violations.
And I just want to, I thank you very much, Tammy, for putting this report together. I appreciate it, and I feel like this is a very proactive step for the board, because, I mean, just so long have we been kind of like, let's say, criticized for just being like the inspectors who go in, and this is actually like a step of, you know, an ounce of prevention prevents a pound of cure.
Mhm.
So I applaud you for taking these steps, and I like where we're going with this.
I have a few questions. It looks really good, and I'm just wondering if a printed version of this will be available for some people who don't have access to computers or online.
yes, in doing our health and safety curriculum, legal has made us aware that there has to be a written form. So with each of these modules, the written form will be available. It will just basically cover, and there will be a test section in the back where they will have to turn it in to get a grading. We haven't worked out all the kinks yet with how we're going to do that exactly, but they will have to pass, and we will have to have something in writing.
And as well, just so it's stated, even though I know we're gonna do it, it'll be in at least 4 different languages.
Oh, yes.
I do have two suggestions. I'm not sure where they would fall on these two topics, but I didn't see anything specifying a section on the DRC process. And also, a suggestion would be to add a section on best practices for interacting with inspectors, so that people have an understanding of why the inspectors are there. So we can do a bit of prevention in terms of some of the fear that I know that a lot of the licensees have.
Thank you.
Good suggestions, Lisa, thank you.
Excellent suggestions.
All right, and then,
And you'll see each of these sections when we get further, we'll be bringing them to the board. We won't just be going off on our own and finishing them.
Take the test.
Yes. You have to pass.
and then, so, from today, what are you looking for from the board today?
We would like the board's approval on this plan for our educational tutorial series.
I'd like to ask a question also to Tammy, through the president. Do you know approximately how long it'll be before this is implemented?
Because the first priority is getting our health and safety curriculum tutorial done, it probably won't even start till 2018.
Okay, thanks.
I would move to approve this, including some of the suggestions that have been made, especially the suggestions that Lisa made.
I will second that motion. So I've got a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a public comment on this agenda item.
Mr. President, board members, my name is Glenn Foreman. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. I have actually looked at this proposal for the 39-hour class, and I think it's a really good move in the right direction. We've worked with the board quite a bit trying to resolve the abuses of apprentices and pre-apprentices in this industry, and it's been a real heart wrencher for me.
And
As I
for
have,
us.
what's that?
And for us.
I can imagine. I mean, my daughter's a cosmetologist, and I wouldn't put her in an apprenticeship program even though I work for the Division of Apprenticeship Standards because I couldn't find one that I could trust. And that's pretty sad. But I think this is a move in the right direction, and I have a few other ideas, but they're not at this, for this discussion. But we want to go, DAS wants to go on record as supporting this undertaking, especially with that 39-hour class. Any questions?
I generally don't, this is public comment, not public debate, and I respect that. I just wanted to tell you something. Not only that I'm in agreement with you, but I've actually in DRC had 5 young men who had only Mexican IDs who were caught working alone as apprentices in a shop. And when they were questioned, they were very honest. They said they paid an apprenticeship program $3,000 apiece to get Social Security numbers. Now, that's prior to changing the law so that people can use their tax ID number. But if people don't know that, they're still going to be used. And I hope we can get this cleaned up.
Thank you.
It's been one of the things that I've been pushing very hard.
Thank you.
And I could just also say we appreciate the DAS's support and that they like this. Thank you.
Yeah, we think the Board of Cosmetology is a great partner personally.
Well, thank you.
Good morning again. Fred Jones, Professional Beauty Federation of California. First, I applaud the proactive nature of this proposal in all of its facets, both the remedial education and also the pre-apprenticeship. There are some concerns that I have. I've not discussed this with my board members, but the current business model, as I understand it, and I really only have dealings with one major apprenticeship program in our state down in Southern California, so I don't have a lot of exposure to apprenticeship programs. But I will say that as an association, we want to keep all avenues open for potential licensees to join this industry. And apprenticeship is one of those. Schools, like Mr. Federico, President Federico, are another avenue. Reciprocity from another state, another avenue, which we supported. So we embrace all the various avenues and do not support artificial barriers to entry, because one of our biggest concerns is underground, illegal or unlicensed activity. So we think whatever the state requires should be balanced against that major concern. However, as I understand it, the business model used by the current program sponsors, of which there's around 10 in our state, or, oh, a lot more than that. Okay, sorry. Is based on that pre-apprenticeship, or pre-apprenticeship 39-hour program. So they charge a fee ostensibly for that 39 hours. But they also do other services beyond that. I think one of the most important is they connect the apprenticeship candidate to salons willing to take on that apprenticeship. And they work with those, or at least in theory, should be working with the state board to make sure that those salons are approved for the placement of apprentices. So if you remove the 39 hours and offer it for free, then it removes the primary justification for the charge that they charge the apprentice that keeps them in business. So one of the potential unintended consequences of this very proactive, forward-looking proposal could be that you decimate all program sponsors in the state of California, which would leave these young people, like Glenn's daughter, with nobody to help shepherd them into a salon that's approved by the state board and to begin their apprenticeship. So yes, there are weaknesses and problems, not least of which their passage rate. Passage rates of apprenticeship candidates is much lower than those that go through schools like Mr. Federico's. That's a problem. But part of that problem is a function of they take a pre-apprenticeship class and then 2 years later take the exam. So there's a big disconnect between when they learn the theory and when they actually are tested on that theory. Of course, the good program should be giving them study guides, following up with them, at least every month, and preparing them on crash courses before they actually take the license exam. The problem is there's a lot of them that aren't doing that. Maybe most, maybe all. So I am not here to defend current apprenticeship programs. But I am here to defend a business model that will keep them in business. And so I am concerned that an unintended consequence of offering for free this 39-hour program is that you'll remove the ability of apprenticeship sponsored programs to stay afloat financially. There's also, you're going to need to, if you're going to allow, and this is a legal issue, if you're going to allow an apprentice, pre-apprentice to take the 39-hour course online, the code section dealing with apprenticeship program 7334, section D says all persons making application as an apprentice. Oh wait, no, that wasn't the section. Oh, here it is, it's section C. All persons making application as apprentice in barbering, et cetera, shall complete a minimum of 39 hours of a pre-apprenticeship in a facility approved by the board prior to serving the public. So.
Actually on page 8 of our proposal.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I didn't get to page 8. Okay, so I just think we need to tread a little bit lightly and see if there are some decent apprenticeships. I'm willing to go out and talk to the LA one and see what they have to say about this program and see if they can stay afloat if they don't have to offer the 39-hour pre-apprenticeship program and it's offered for free online. Comment?
And again, this is the very beginning of this proposal,
Right.
so it's, a long way off. I would direct you to page 3 of our report, which shows our pass and fail rates of the apprenticeship program, and I think we can all agree that there is significant problems. I think Mr. Hedges mentioned it already, that this pre-apprentice training is probably just one step in some of the items that we'll be bringing before the board because we talk a lot about the Spanish pass rate, yet we have barbers at 19% passing for an apprenticeship program, so.
Yeah, again, no, I appreciate the comments. I'm not here to defend the current programs. What I am here to express is a concern about leaving the apprenticeship program a viable option. And if you have no program sponsors, I do not think, for all intents and purposes, this will be a viable option for anybody in our state. So that's what I think we need to tread a little lightly on and see what we can do to, and in a perfect world, and certainly working with DAS, I had a brief conversation with Glenn before the meeting. Great resource for you all to chat with. We are an unusual industry in a lot of ways, and this is no exception. Most, like the building industry, they say learn while you earn, or earn while you learn, sorry. They're actually paid. They don't pay for their apprenticeship education. But they have a totally different history than we do, and a totally different perspective than we do. So I think whatever, at the end of this rainbow, whatever results will probably be unique to our industry. But in a perfect world, yeah, the salon would pay for that apprentice. And if there's a program sponsor, would pay the program sponsor, not make the apprentice pay for that. I get that. But for the last couple decades, that has not been the practice. So the business model has shifted that burden to the apprentice to pay up front for these costs. So anyway, I just wanted to express these very fluid concerns and ideas because the last thing we want to see is to basically have an apprenticeship program on paper, but not in reality. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Delane Sims, and I am a nail salon owner since 1995. And I just want to applaud the board for this wonderful step towards educating those in our field. It's just so needed and very much appreciated. We have actually been proactive when it comes to safety in the nail salon. We are a part of the Healthy Nail Collaborative that I'm sure all of you know about. However, I did, one of the funders for that program came in to our salon, and they stated that of all of the members of the Healthy Nail Collaborative in our area, which is the East Bay area, that some have closed, some they would not, because of their Yelp ratings were so low that they wouldn't feel safe going there. And so it's really sad that that's the case right now with the program. But as I said, health and safety has been the cornerstone of my nail salon. And so what we've done is to take proactive measures to create a position called a safety compliance officer. And what that basically means is that we've just gathered all the materials from the board of Barber and Cosmetology as it relates to safety in actually all of the areas that you've already proposed. And we have a 3-month program that all of our nail techs have to go through. And they're tested rigorously, and it's actually not open book, every 2 weeks. And once they finish that program, we actually reward them for that. And it's just been working out really well. So I'm here to partner with those in the industry who are interested in moving forward with health and safety measures, and I'm here to learn as much as I can so that we can continue to shore up these health and safety issues in our industry. One of the things that I would love to see happen at some point is that there is an apprenticeship program just for nail techs. And as far as I know, that's not happening. But also I do want to speak to what the gentleman mentioned about fees. I think that if there is an investment by the student, that they kind of have some skin in the game, and it really helps them to maintain a certain standard, although that's not the case with us right now. We actually have a program, a nonprofit program that we started called Steps to Success, and we're working with underserved women, mostly single moms, and helping them to obtain their manicure license. And once they do that, then we try to make sure that they are paid a living wage. So our prices, our salon prices are higher than most because we do want to make sure that our nail techs are earning a living wage. But wrapped in there, again, is the focus to make sure that they are adhering to health and safety guidelines. The reason I started in this industry was because I went to get my nails done, and the lady told me to sit down for my manicure at a table where there was a paper towel that had blood stains on it and fingernail clippings. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And they said, oh, and just turned the napkin over and expected me to continue with the service. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And so I went to school only to find that I fell in love with being able to provide manicures and pedicures. And again, the standard going in was health and safety. And for that reason, we have the disposable liners. We don't use the spa tubs at all. But it's unfortunate that when we see clients that the baseline things that we do according to the board standards are unusual for them to see. So again, I'm here to glean, to learn as much as I can, and to partner with anyone and everyone that can help us make our industry safe and better. Thank you so much.
What city are you in?
I'm in San Leandro, G-Lane's Natural Nail Care, and we're 5-star rated nail salon on every rating platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment?
My name is Dave White, Central Valley Barber College in Riverbank. I was going to wait till the end, but I'll say it now. This apprentice program is, to me, as a barber, is a joke. The whole apprentice program is a joke. Years ago, we did have an apprentice program. Once you pass the apprentice test, then you worked for a year, I think it was a year and a half, then you could take your master barber license or barber license. Either you take the test or maybe it'd be good to give it to them if they work in a shop for a year and a half. I can understand that, but just to, basically what the barbers are doing, they're just hiring somebody and they're not paying taxes on them. They're giving them $10 an hour just to hang out in the shop and take their money or whatever happens. I mean, I don't understand the whole program. If you go to school, and if it's a proper school, like ours is, you're going to learn everything. You're going to be barbershop ready when you get out of school. So where you can go and work in any barbershop. And like I explained to the students, we're going to teach you the art of barbering, sanitation, everything. So that when you go into a shop, it's like getting on a freeway. You just blend right in. To me, that's what a school is supposed to be for. But this apprenticeship, I mean, if the owner of the shop doesn't do the sanitary rules, and most of them don't, what's the apprentice going to learn? Nothing. He's not going to learn anything. He's going to learn to be unsanitary is what he's going to learn. Dirty drawers, dirty tools, don't sweep the floor, neck strips on the floor. What we need really is more inspectors. There's probably almost as many unlicensed barbers working in shops. I'm talking about barbers, not cosmetologists. Working in shops that don't have a license. I turn them in, okay? I mean, I send in I try to get a business card and I write on the back, no barber in this shop or unlicensed shop, and I send it in, and like that it's taken care of. But the apprenticeship, I mean, you're having people teach apprentices, I'm talking about barbers, teach apprentices the wrong rules, the unsanitary. A lot of shops are basically filthy, okay? You wouldn't get your hair cut in there if you knew what was right and wrong, okay? Anyway, I'm not in favor of the apprenticeship program, the whole apprenticeship program. Maybe the way it was, and I don't know how many years ago that it went out, maybe 20 or 30 years ago that it went out, but that was a pretty good program. They had to work in a licensed shop. That's all. Thank you.
Any other public comment? I just want to make sure that we're sticking to public comment on this agenda item, and specifically the motion that was seconded.
The motion was regarding the education.
Yes.
Of other issues, but besides the apprentice issue.
Yeah.
How's it going, everybody? John Murno from Biggs Barber College. Looks like we have a lot of passionate individuals about this industry, and with all things put aside, we do need to hear from the horse's mouth, not from inspectors, not from somebody else, hey, this is what you do. So with all emotions involved, it is good to hear that. Instead of hearing it from one person, oh, this is the rule, that's the rule. And yes, if you get that 1,000-page book, you can find exactly what the rules are. But if you give that to a student, they're never going to know, ever. So that's why it's important at the school to break down the rules. Here's exactly what you do. Here's why. And it's also good to hear it from you, the board members. I know, Joe, you have to do this at your school as well. Just break it down individually, and being able to go through that is very prosperous to all these individuals. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing that. So I think you're on the right step towards that, and it's going to be a good program. This is a concept, not already in the works, correct?
Proposal.
It's just a proposal at this point.
Good deal.
So we're just trying to take it down the road.
So yeah, my comment is, I like the direction, and it is good to hear from the horse's mouth what's going on. All right?
Cool. Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item and this motion? Seeing as there is none, I'm going to call for a vote. Please.
Yeah, because this is an ambitious program, and since these are all independent modules, perhaps at the next board meeting, you can come back with us, maybe list them in priority, which one you're gonna tackle first, whether it's the requirement portion or the update portion. And on the requirement portion, I'm sure you're gonna be doing this, but to have safeguards that we know that the right people taking them are the persons actually taking them. And, you know, I know you know this, but just want to stress that point.
At our, so it might not be our next board meeting in January, because at our January meeting, we will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, bringing our health and safety curriculum to the board, which is a really, really big project. And once we have that, which I'm going to predict you'll all be very impressed with. Once we have that, we'll be able to focus on this, but we will do that. We can put it in priority, and we'll also, we've talked to DCA with their IT folks, and so they're going to help us to make all of this happen. So that won't be until early 2017 as well. So that'll, once we have that meeting as well, we'll be able to look at timelines and how we would do this. But again, we'll prioritize it, and we will also, I just want to remind everybody that each segment will come to the board as well, so that you can see the direction we're going and make comments on that as well.
Okay. I feel like I'm putting the cart way before the horse on this one, but if this thing proves valuable, I feel like we should like to have like a annual or like annual updates to it with like what the newest regulatory changes are. Okay. Good. All right. So now I'm going to call for this vote. Right hand side, starting Mary Lou.
Mary Lou Amaro, yes.
Holly Cordnes, yes.
Lisa Tong, yes.
Rich Hedges, yes.
Joseph Federico, yes.
Coco Lashin, yes.
And on the phone,
You may be on mute if you've changed your phone setting.
Bobby Jean, you there? Is the phone even connected?
We heard some back.
I'm sorry, I'm here, Bobby Jean Anderson, yes.
Motion carries. Moving on. We're on to agenda item number, sorry, my notes on here. Number 7, discussion and possible actions of proposed amendments to the board's disciplinary guidelines.
So this goes in line with our proposal for the prior that we just talked about. This is what we wanted to just bring to the board, that this is our one area in our disciplinary guidelines that we would have to change, because there's a line that talks about remedial education. The education courses shall be completed in a board-approved school, and of course, if we have something online, we wouldn't need that section anymore. And the the disciplinary guidelines are approved by the board, so this would be the only change that would be needed in that document.
All right, so I got a motion, and then I'll make a second in the motion. So I got a motion and a second. So, public comment on the on this agenda item and this motion. Seeing as there is none, I am going to call for a vote.
Sure.
Mary Lou Amaro, yes.
Holly Cordnes, yes.
Lisa Tong, yes.
Rich Hedges, yes.
Joseph Federico, yes.
Coco Lashin, yes.
And, Bobby Jean?
Yes, Bobby Jean Anderson, yes.
All right, very good. I am always trepidatious on getting into number 8 because it could be a long conversation, so maybe we should have a 5-minute
That would
break
be
before we go into there.
Oh, yes.
So I'm gonna call for a 10-minute recess. On the phone?
I'm sorry.
Just
I'm on
making
the move, so I have to go through a little process, you know, from move. But anyway, yes, I'm still here.
It's all right, just making sure. All right, we're gonna come back in on this meeting, and once again, we're now moving to possible legislation that may affect the board, and so I'm gonna once again pass it over to Christie.
Okay, so as we know, we're out of the legislative session. So in your packets is a memo that gives the status of all of the bills that we have been following. So I will just go through each of them. Starting with AB 1322, which allows for the serving of beer, wine in a barber or beauty shop without a license from the Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control. This bill was signed by the governor. It does not impact our board. It impacts the Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control. So there's not, we don't have to do anything to implement it. It would be up to that department. Okay. AB 2025, which was our bill that included making materials available to all licensees in English, Spanish, Korean, Vietnamese. Allows our Health and Safety Committee to add labor issues to the agenda that they will discuss. Requires applications to have an acknowledgement of understanding on basic labor laws. That's for our initial applications and our renewal application. Requires the board to collect demographic information on each applicant for their preferred language. And requires our health and safety course that you'll be seeing at our next board meeting to include information on basic labor laws. Okay. AB 2125, which is the Healthy Nail Salon Recognition Program, was signed by the governor. So that expands the existing Healthy Nail Salon Recognition Program that's in a few counties right now. And the collaborative, as well as a couple other county representatives, have already reached out to me, so we're working on ways we can assist them with implementing this program and spreading it out through California. And also, because we did add to that bill that they have to be in compliance with all of our regulations, so I've been working with them on getting them some sample reports on how they can search for violations that the salons have on their record. Yes.
I want to thank you. I know this was a lot of negotiations, and our big concern was that we would have people who were violating safety and health conditions, but yet have the healthy nail cladding hanging on their wall, because we already have examples of that in the counties that have it. And I'm just hopeful that that our inspectors can go in and take those signs down if in fact they are convicted of these health and safety violations.
We don't have the authority to take that sign down, but they have the responsibility to take that sign
And
down.
how can we force that to happen?
How can we force it? I don't know that we can force it, but I can tell you that I've been in conversations with San Mateo County and San Francisco County and the collaborative, and I know that they are very on board with looking at this and making sure that their salons are in compliance.
Okay, good, thank you.
I have a question. So who's going to be the authority overseeing, like, the determination of healthy nail salon? Will it be the cities?
It's
or-
the cities and the counties. I believe it can be either or. But it's they're the ones who are operating it.
It's the counties, I think.
Counties and Santa Monica, right? Yeah.
City of Santa Monica.
But generally, where these healthy nail agreements have gone in, they've gone in with the counties, not with the
They
cities.
have one. They do have one city down south, Santa Monica. that is working with them already and has been. But other than that, it's been counties. The Healthy Now Collaborative, who has kind of spearheaded this idea, and I talked to them just a couple weeks ago, and it's, they're very open to all of our communication and likewise, so I think it's going to be well done.
Maybe at a future board meeting, I'd like to have a better understanding of the process that these salons go through in order to get that designation, just so we have an understanding.
With the passage of it statewide, is it gonna be the same Now Collaborative who's kind of like spearheading it, or is there gonna be like separate individual Now Collaboratives?
The way I understand it is the collaborative exists, and then it's the counties who are working with them, and they do have a process. And I'm sure we could get one of them to come and talk to us about what they do to get that approval.
I think that'd be important.
Yeah, I feel like that's.
Because I just have concerns if there are other people who will be approaching salons to check on anything in particular related to this. I don't want there to be confusion between our inspectors
Right.
and whoever else is going into the salons. And if there are issues with their folks who are going into these salons, then it's going to end up, on us.
Right.
In terms of TRC, if people have complaints and things like that.
We can check into seeing if someone's available for our next meeting, because we're meeting in Orange County. And I know that they do have the collaborative has part in Orange County as well, so we might be able to get someone.
I know that in San Mateo County, there's actually public funds that allow for things like masks for the, so I don't know whether that'll take place. I think that'll be on a county-by-county basis. Because there's nothing in this law that I think would allow that. But it's not a bad thing that we make sure that, for instance, in the nail industry, people are protecting their lungs, especially with some of the services that are offered.
Okay. Next is AB 2437, which requires the Labor Commissioner to create a model posting that pertains to workers' rights. And we will inspect for that posting, and we will establish an administrative fine for noncompliance of that. So we'll be working to implement that. SB 896, which was the bill for tipping, which required if you accepted a debit or credit card payment, you would also have to allow the tip to be paid that way, and that bill was vetoed by the governor. And then SB 1044, which was the bill with Senator Nguyen that we also sponsored, which allows us to determine by regulation when a fine goes to an establishment owner and to an individual, and then also allows us to set up payment plans. That was signed by the governor. So at the next meeting, you'll be seeing some proposed regulations for that.
I would like to work with you on that, and I think there's actually a model out there already. It's the old fine structure that was changed in about 2003 or 4. I showed you the little card from it at the last DRC meeting. If you remember.
Right.
So I think we could use that as a model to make a determination. It didn't work very well in those days because it was taking so long to get people through to an appeals hearing that when we waived the fines on the first time through, they thought they weren't cited because they didn't pay any money.
Fred Jones, Professional Beauty Federation, California. Thank you for the time. Your staff has a lot of work to do with all these bills. This is the busiest legislative session since I've been involved with this industry, dating back to the year 2000. Thank you, New York Times. So the last thing in the world I would want to do is suggest more work for your staff. However, on AB 1322, the point of AB 1322 was, from my vantage point, to largely exempt salons from ABC oversight, Alcohol Beverage Control Department. So I would strongly encourage this board and your staff to reach out to ABC to see what their plans are vis-a-vis regulating this. Because again, as I see it, the whole intent behind AB 1322 was to get ABC out of the business of regulating alcohol distribution and consumption in salons. Now, there were limits placed in 1322, I believe it's 7 ounces of beer. But the question is begged, who will enforce that? If they don't need an ABC license to do that, is ABC necessarily going to do it? Now, they did accept an amendment at the end of the session that said nothing in this bill prohibits the local municipalities from enforcing their zoning requirements, which to me was redundant. They didn't need to say that, but it was an effort to try to assuage some concerns of senators that had held the bill up the first year. So I would suggest that the state of California has some obligation to regulate the distribution and consumption of alcohol in our salons. And if it isn't going to be ABC, then that necessarily falls to you all. So hopefully you can figure out whether ABC has plans to regulate this in some fashion. And if not, whether they can assist in developing some sort of regulation for you all to enforce. So for example, if you decided to regulate this, or if ABC decided, I would go to them and say, if alcohol consumption is part of your business model, that should be verboten. You should not offer a haircut that's conditional on you drinking whiskey to get that haircut. And there are some business models out there, I won't name them, but they were the sponsors of this bill, that has in their menu of services names of alcoholic beverages that are part of it. So you don't get a blow dry, you get a Jimmy Bean blow dry. I think that steps way over the bounds of what has been practiced in this industry forever, which is, hey, you get here early at a barber shop, go help yourself to a beer in the fridge while you wait, right? So somebody in the state of California should draw some lines there, because eventually it's going to come home to roost, and you're going to have stylists or barbers giving intoxicated people drinks who are going to go out and kill somebody and hold our industry accountable for that. So again, the law of unintended consequences could very much come home to roost with AB 1322. So I hope somebody becomes a sheriff of this. To the other bill, and the only other bill I have a comment on the local initiatives for the Healthy Nails recognition program. I do think it's appropriate for you to pass regulations to implement this. And one of the regulations could be that as part of the inspection and the enforcement division review process, if a salon is cited with a violation, that as part of that citation, they are required to remove that sign. So and therefore that would necessitate some sort of process in which the inspector is going to be looking for those signs as part of his or her inspection. So if, as part of the inspection, they look for that posted sign, they see one, and then find, a spade of violations, and then it goes to your review, enforcement division review, and they say, yeah, this is not a good salon, they have a long history, you should have the legal authority to require them to remove that sign without having to wait for the municipality that granted it in the first place. Thank you.
I actually have been thinking about 1322 for some time, and I think it has been historic that people are offered a glass of wine when they're waiting with many, many barbershops and salons. I will say that that was often in a different atmosphere with drinking and driving than we have now. It's now .08. If somebody tests .08 and then deposing that person during a lawsuit, because invariably there'll be a lawsuit if somebody's injured with a .08, they say that they got that alcohol from their barber or their cosmetologist or their manicurist. I think you can see eventually some of the ads that we see from attorneys now, from talcum powder to asbestos, asking people to contact him. You're also going to see this is an issue that people are asked to contact if they're injured in an accident. You can see, I think that if I'm going to serve alcohol, I better make it clear to my insurance company that I'm doing it, and I better also buy a little extra liability insurance. And you might have a tough time increasing your liability insurance if you're offering alcohol to people and they're gonna drive home. So I would just say, beware to the shops in our state that offer alcohol.
Hi, John Moreno on Bakersfield Barber College. On the, what number was that? I'm drinking AB 1322. Also something to look at is, I don't know where the inspectors are on watching for the barbers themselves or beauticians and make sure that they are not drinking themselves. I also see the customer standpoint, but personally, I wouldn't want to deal with the liability. I wouldn't have that in my barbershop. Has way too much liability. And a whole different atmosphere that really you don't need. But if you were serving and the State Board of Barbering came in, or the, what's the field that would be, or ABC would come in, would they have the authority to submit a breathalyzer test to the barbers themselves? Because I know plenty of shops that serve alcohol, and the barbers are drinking themselves. And for the few shops that are doing that, because there aren't a lot, for the few shops that are doing that, they're drinking themselves. So I want to make sure that if that is something that does pass, that you need to pass a point where it should be 0.00 for the barbers. And with the clients, I mean, Barber Board, you're awesome, but I doubt you could be able to watch them hard enough to make sure they didn't serve 2 beers, and if they were 7 ounces or 12 ounces. Those are just out there. I'm just letting you all know, you gotta watch the barbers, and you have to be able to either you or AB be able to submit a breathalyzer test if suspected, or if they serve it all, just make it mandatory. Everyone take a breathalyzer test. I mean, if you serve it, I mean, you gotta deal with it. So that's my heart on it. Besides that, only thing I'm happy to hear is that the credit debit thing didn't pass. I mean, that's not your responsibility. Besides that, everything, thank you very much.
I'm gonna move down to agenda item now number 9. Proposed regulation updates. Again, Christie Underwood.
Just 2 regulation packages that we have updates on. The demonstration of products has been approved by the Office of Administrative Law and will be effective January 1, 2017. And lastly, our health and safety poster. We did have one change that was recommended by the legal office at DCA, and that is adding the very bottom line to our sign that says Orem B&P Code Section 7301 to 7426.5. And then it lists the regulations as well. So we would need a motion from the board to approve that modified text, and then we will need to do a 15-day comment period. And then hopefully that one will be completed.
Motion to approve the modified text for our. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna second.
Okay. Motion to approve the modified text as outlined by DCA.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Public comment on this motion and this regulation. Seeing as there is none, I will call for the vote, starting on the right-hand side.
Mary Lou Amaro, yes.
Polly Cornez, yes.
Lisa Tong, yes.
Rich Hedges, yes.
Joseph Federico, yes.
Yes.
On the phone?
Bobby Jean Anderson, yes.
Motion carries.
Make a comment.
Please.
This is a frivolous comment. I'm going to be the first to admit it, but our signs are ugly. And if we're going to ask salons to post signs, can we make them prettier or just a little more?
If you would like to continue, press *1 now, or the conference will be terminated.
If we could just,
Did you see what it looked like before?
Yeah.
no, I mean, just looking at this, there's two different fonts being used here for one thing. So like I said, it's frivolous, but if someone can have an extra minute, it's-
Yes.
He was lucky it's not Comic Sans.
thank you.
I do understand, and I agree with your designer's eye right there, Coco.
I went to school for it, so.
I understand. All right, so, next, we have the proposal, so we got, the motion carried.
Yes.
All right, so that one went through, and then now we're going to the
Number 10.
modified text. Or is that,
That was it.
that was all the same thing, okay. So now we're on to agenda item number 10, which is, can I pass this
Yes,
over to you?
sure.
Christine?
So, item 10 is the discuss and possible action to designate a decision and order in the matter of a citation against MBM Beauty LLC DBA Lashes on Broadway as a precedent pursuant to Government Code Section 11425.60. So in your packets is a decision that you are probably all familiar with, where we had a case that basically a person applying lashes, and we cited them for unlicensed activity, and this case was upheld by the judge as well as voted on by all of you. We would like the board to take a motion, if it so chooses, to set this as precedence. It basically will give us another tool that an attorney general could use if we have cases like this to come up in the future. The lash extension industry is booming, and it's being promoted by companies that they don't need a license. This sets a clear precedence that it is within our scope of practice. It's in our scope of practice specifically, and this just adds to our tools.
I clearly see why someone would promote as their business model, you don't need a license because it expands the number of people they can draw in. As we can see with many of the shows, they draw people in, telling them they can use various equipment that often is medical equipment, telling them that it works within their license. Having said that, in reading the case, I think it's an excellent example, and I would like to hear an evaluation from our legal counsel as to whether they agree with that or not, and also any attorneys in the room that would like to make a comment.
I agree that this could be used to help bolster. The idea is it's another tool in your arsenal. You have a reg that's going into effect January 1, so, it's no harm, no foul at the very least, but if not, it works in tandem to help demonstrate to an ALJ the kind of analysis that you're advocating for.
I would like to say something. I've had the eyelash extensions, and I've seen it. I went to a class in San Francisco on it, and they have a tool that's really pointed. I don't know if that's legal or not legal, and so it seems kind of dangerous being close to the eye, so I would like your opinion on.
Our regulations refer to needles for the use of extractions. So if they're using pointy tweezers to apply the lashes,
It's okay.
that would be acceptable.
Okay.
But once again, what you're doing is highlighting the reason why it needs to be a licensed
Right,
esthetician
yeah,
or
it's very,
cosmetologist applying
very
this.
dangerous, yeah.
So then I will make the motion to accept this case
Second.
as precedent. Or at least make the motion.
No, I want to get it done.
All right, so I got a motion and a second, we're gonna call for public comment. Seeing as there is none, I will go for the vote, starting on my right-hand side.
Mary Lamaro, yes.
Holly Cordes, yes.
Lisa Tong, yes.
Rich Hedges, yes.
Joseph Federico, yes.
Coco Lashin, yes.
And on the phone,
Bobby Jean Anderson, yes.
all right. So now we're moving on to agenda item number 11, which is agenda items for the next meeting. So I'm gonna start with my fellow board members. Is there any agenda items you'd like to see on the next meeting? Anybody? I have one. I know the state of Washington has recently passed a hairdresser's license. So I would like to see which states currently offer a hairstylist license, kind of like just a report in general on the hairstylist license about what is the scope of practice as seen by these states? How many states offer it, and what are like the regulatory hours and requirements for it?
Well, I would like to have an enforcement committee meeting around 10/4/4, and then that enforcement committee meeting bring back some of their comments to the board for a meeting in January. I think it's really necessary for us to get some committee input on this.
Anything else, board members?
I'm not sure if I need to officially request this, but as we mentioned before, a presentation about the healthy nail salon would be great.
Is that everything from my board members?
Thank you, Mr. President. Fred Jones again on behalf of the PBFC. You kind of stole my thunder, but I'll add a little bit of meat to the bones. Given some pressures from the United States Department of Education and regulations on schools, there's a clear message being spent that the U.S. Department of Ed wants private post-secondary schools, of which beauty colleges are included, to diminish the amount of debt that they're putting on students as a condition to get their degrees or licenses. To that end, and a confluence of another pressure, and that is some of the big boys in our industry would like to see more uniform and less hours for folks to be able to get licensed and entered into the industry. So kind of lower the artificial barriers to entry. So there's an opportunity here to take the pressures that are coming from the U.S. Department of Ed and the desires of some of the chain salons and others, big employers, to revisit an issue that hasn't been visited by this board in a number of years, and that's the hairstylist license. Since the vast majority of cosmetologists just do hair, can we really justify not offering them a shorter school experience with less debt to be able to enter the workforce, to do what most cosmetologists do anyway? And the argument has been, well, there's a barbering license, but there are some differences between barbers and hairstyling. For one, shaving, so there may be an opportunity to clarify that as well. I would like to see that you actually have some proposals to consider for legislation at your next meeting. Not simply, let's discuss what other states are doing vis-a-vis hairstyling license, but let's get on the starting blocks on this, because I think it's inevitable, and we might as well get out in front of it sooner rather than later. A new session of the legislature begins in December, next month. And if you had a proposal that you wanted, the bill introduction deadline is the end of February. So the timing couldn't be better, if you could come up with something by then. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's something related.
Please.
I'm not sure if we've ever taken a look at this in the past, but, or if it's even possible, but do we have a list of the schools in California and their pass-fail rates?
We do, we publish it online.
Okay.
We can provide that with our statistics at our next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great, I think.
It's taken us a while to get it correct with Breeze, but I believe we're very close, if not all the way there.
I would like, yeah, thank you. That brought something to my mind I've been thinking about, sitting here sort of in a daze and didn't bring it up. So if it's possible, with us being on television, or at least internally, if we could get the staff to show people how to navigate the website to find the various things that they need to find. Because in DRC, people seem to be stumped, quite frankly. They may not be that literate at looking through. And actually, I go through the website fairly frequently, and I was trying to find something last night, and either I didn't remember how to get to it, or it's changed. So I had a little bit of trouble myself, and I'm on the website quite a bit finding something last night.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so.
We could do that, and then it'll be put on our website
Yeah.
so that we could,
Yeah.
I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's all about giving people access to information. And this really doesn't have anything to do with the next agenda item, but in September at DRC, we had one particular day It was very draining for everybody. We had everything from people screaming at us that they were artists and shouldn't be regulated, to people interfering with the witnesses. In fact, jumping up and running up and sitting down with the witness, screaming at the witness they were doing it wrong. And for the first time in my many, many years on here, we had to eject somebody from the DRC meeting. And unfortunately, that was Coco's first meeting. And his comment when we left to me was, wow, what a day. So I would just like to encourage Coco, because he did a wonderful job for his first day under bad circumstances, not to be deterred, because every day is not like that.
And you will be attending DRC with us tomorrow, so you are a brave soul, sir. You're very brave. All right.
And actually, just on a separate note from our educational tutorial series, we're doing things in-house as well. You know that we are working on our language access protocols for inspectors. We were required to do that by statute. And then we thought it was such a good idea. We are actually have expanded it to the rest of our staff. So we're doing it for our exam sites as well as working on it for our staff in-house. And what we did in developing those is DCA has worked with us with giving us a cameraman and an editor, and Tammy has set up basically scripts, and we've had our own staff act as people, so we have staff going, and we've used actually Federico's school as a backdrop, so we've done these things for our in-house staff. And we've wanted to expand that as well because we have a YouTube spot where we can place all this information. So it would be great if we can do the how to navigate the website and we could put it on our YouTube channel. That actually is part of our health and safety curriculum already, so it's going to even be expanded to students once we get that complete. But we could do something for DRC as well and add that to our YouTube channel so that we can get more on there. And then we also are looking to have it done in different languages as well. So.
Moving on to agenda item number 12, just general public comment before we close the meeting.
Sorry, I know I've come up a lot again today. Fred Jones, PBFC. I just have to say, I've been doing this since 2000, and for the first several years of me advocating on behalf of the industry of this board, I compare that experience with the experience that I've seen in the last several years, and it's two universes. Your board is so incredibly proactive, so welcoming to the public. Your executive staff has worked with many stakeholders. As I mentioned earlier, this was the busiest legislative session I've ever experienced in 16 years, and your staff and your board handled it adroitly, professionally, diligently, diplomatically, and impressively, and had great results in getting legislation amended to their liking. I mean, we didn't get the governor to veto that problematic alcohol bill. That's too bad. But for the most part, a lot of success. And it's obvious to me that starts with your board, but really at the staff level, it's Ms. Underwood's leadership and her executive staff, and they are just nothing short of impressive how proactive they've been. And that stands in stark contrast to so much of the bureaucracy of this state. So I just wanted to recognize what a difference this board has been. And you new members, believe me, you did not see how ugly things were in this board. The legislature had this board as their #1 target. And we went through sunsets and other things to clean it up. And for the last several years, it's been real comity. Real good working relationships with all concerned. So thank you very much.
Thank
you. Delane Sims, Delane's Natural Nail Care. Again, I just want to say thank you. I am so grateful to be here today. It's my first board meeting. It will not be my last. And I'm really grateful for the direction of making sure that our salons are safe. I earlier mentioned the Healthy Nail Collaborative, and I do want to say that it is a wonderful program. I mentioned that there was some some glitchy things that happened with one of the sponsors or funders of the program. But that's to be expected, that, nothing new is going to get off to a completely smooth start. So I do applaud all of those who work for the Healthy Nail Collaborative to make sure that our nail salons are safe. Also, I want to know if it's possible to be a part of the board in the future. I guess I'm going to miss all the nasty parts that already came before me, before this time, but I do want more information about that. And again, I'm very appreciative to be here. Thank you.
Jean Ogren, Electrologist Association. As Christy and Tammy, you probably know, I was an electrologist for 45 years, so I have seen many boards come and go. And I was expressing to Joseph at the intermission that this board is the most professional that I have seen, and certainly the most proactive. And it's quite a nice, refreshing thing to participate in and observe. So kudos to you. I mean, I know you work really hard, and I think all of the profession, excuse me, all of the professions really appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Seeing as there's no more public comment, I believe Coco would like.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I had requested a couple of minutes to just express a sentiment. I come from West Hollywood, the city of West Hollywood, and November is designated as Transgender Awareness Month, primarily because every year on November 20th is the observance of Transgender Day of Remembrance. It started in San Francisco over almost 20 years ago when a transgender woman was killed. And ever since then, in most cities here in the United States and all around the world, the trans communities commemorates the Transgender Day of Remembrance in honor of those we have lost to transgender hatred and violence. Because we are a very inclusive industry and there's a large number of transgender people that work in our industry, and this year alone in the United States, there has been at least 24 cases of transgender death due to violence and hatred, affecting mostly transgender women of color. And these are just cases that were documented and properly documented as transgender people. We know that there are probably a lot other cases that we do not know about or that they were not properly classified. So I'd like to request my board, with your indulgence, that we adjourn this meeting in memory of those who have lost to transgender hatred and violence. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. So thank you guys very much for all your hard work today.